You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hi, I'm Joe Heath.
I'm Toni Heath.
And this is the Watch-A-Thon of Rassilon.
Anyway, play the theme song.
That was me.
Today we're going to be talking about the second serial of the 12th season of Doctor Who, The Ark in Space, which consists of 4 episodes that aired from January 25th, 1975 to February 15th, 1975.
True facts!
And I'd like to give a special shout out to Matt Golden for getting us these episodes.
Hey, thanks, Matt.
mgoldentumbles.com.
With a Tumblr in there. mgoldentumbles.tumblr.com.
Tumbles without an E because it's Tumblr.
And that very informative voice is our guest for today, Vincent E.L.
Hi, I did the song.
And you've been a guest multiple times.
I have?
How you doing? How's it going?
I'm doing nothing. I can't lie. That's the train I'm on. I'm not on a train. I have to be honest.
You don't have to be honest. You can be whatever you want.
Do I have to be on a train? Because I am probably going to miss it, because I'm not dressed for it. I'm dressed, but just not for a train. It's really cold outside. I'm in Sweden.
Does the train have, required attire?
Well, the outdoors have required attire. If I walk out in a t-shirt, I'm going to freeze to death. There's still, lots of snow out there.
Our indoors have that. It's freezing in our apartment. Even though it's not that cold outside. You walk outside and it's warmer.
And that's been the Watch-A-Thon of Rassilon weather update. Is there anything else we need to talk about before we jump in?
No.
Cool. Before we jump... Okay, so we're going to...
So there is something you want to talk about.
Well, it's about the cereal.
Before we start talking about the cereal, you want to mention something specific about the cereal?
Yes. The Ark in Space.
Okay, go for it.
Before we get into talking specifics, this episode is written by Robert Holmes, who rewrote a draft by John Lucarotti. John Lucarotti, I think the last episode he wrote was for the first or second Doctor. So, when John Lucarotti wrote his episodes, he didn't realize that the title convention had gone away. So, he gave every episode an episode title. They do not relate to the show at all anymore because his episodes got completely rewritten. But I'm still going to say them every time we get to each episode.
All right. Are you including also, in addition to that, your made-up titles?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to include my made-up titles. I don't have one for 4, but I can probably come up with one.
We'll have a triple title thing going on. Toni, you have titles?
No.
You should come up with titles. It's fun.
I'll read the titles as they exist.
Which is part 1?
Yeah.
All right. So let's dive right into the first one. Episode 1.
Or as I like to call it, episode 1.
And as I like to call it, the Galactic Yo-Yo.
And as I like to call it, 8-legged non-organic table beast.
And
That's
as
a good one.
John Lucarotti wished it to be called, Buttercups.
That's adorable. Wonder what the first episode was actually about.
Yeah, I don't remember any buttercups.
It's gonna get weirder. So, we start with an ark in space.
Yeah, it's a space station that kind of reminds me of the space station from Commander Keen 5, the Armageddon machine.
I know not of what you speak.
Part 2 of Goodbye Galaxy.
Explain what that looks like.
It looks like a big wheel thing with a stick going through it, and the wheel is attached by spokes.
It's kind of similar to, was that previous serial? Was it called The Wheel in Space?
I think so, yeah.
The one that introduced Zoe.
It's also a little bit reminiscent of the station from 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I think was probably the inspiration for the Commander Keen station.
And this serial in itself almost feels kind of like an inspiration for Alien. Because it came before Alien.
I was thinking a thing from another world. Or the thing.
But I mean, also, it's that, you're on a cramped spaceship. Because 90% of this serial takes place in like 2 rooms, 2 to 3 rooms.
Yeah, like four rooms maybe.
The first episode, I think, is solely set in 2 rooms, 2, maybe 3. And it's only the Doctor, Sarah Jane, and Harry Sullivan. I think there's one shot of one of the crew members, but like they don't have any lines.
Yeah, and the threat is the environment.
And a little thing that comes down from the ceiling and shoots sparks at you.
Yeah, that's part of the environment, I would say.
Yeah, because there is a person like right at the beginning, because we get this like weird POV shot with it, which is just green goop around the camera, and it like opens up a pod, and there's a person in it. So we see that right at the beginning. Before this episode even starts, there's the title sequence, which they tinted green just for that episode.
Did they?
Yeah, I didn't notice. I just read it on Wikipedia.
Don't think I noticed either.
It made the TARDIS like brown. I think they were like experimenting with it, like, cause like there's green creatures in this one. We'll tint it green, and they're like, now that doesn't read and it's shitty. So
yeah, people are just gonna think there's something wrong with their TVs if they have color TVs.
Having worked at a TV station, I can guarantee Master Control was getting calls like, "What's happening? Your broadcast is all messed up. Your colors are off."
The TARDIS appears in the space station, and Harry Sullivan is there.
Much to everyone's surprise who watched the last serial and forgot about him.
But as they're exiting the TARDIS, the Doctor calls Harry an idiot, which is, I think, going to be like a recurring thing, is that he gets called stupid an awful lot. I have to say, Harry Sullivan had 0 personality in the previous serial.
I do not remember Harry Sullivan being in the previous serial. To be fair, I watched it months ago, but still, I don't remember it.
It's because he
doesn't leave an impression.
Have I mentioned I have, like, terrible memory?
No, listen, it's fine. He's forgettable. Like, you forget he's in the serial while you're watching the serial. That's how... But yeah, because he has no personality in the first serial, but I think...
Like early Benton Yates.
I think he actually has personality in this serial.
Yeah, he grew on me a little bit. While also irritating me. I like you more, and also, I just have more of an opinion on you.
He's a sexist douchebag, but he's sort of, goofy. He's a goofy sexist douchebag. Like, it's hard to take him seriously as a sexist douchebag, because it's just like, oh, you dumbass.
Yeah, he'll say things and you'll be like, come on, man. Come on. I think that's part of it, is that everyone else around him is like aware that he's stupid, and it makes him easier to swallow.
Yeah, it's not like with Ben. I'm not talking about Patton, because Ben, the character Ben, he was also a sexist douchebag, but nobody had a problem with it. There was nobody to roll their eyes and go, oh, you fucking asshole. But here we have Sarah Jane, who's like,
come on, you're better than this, and you can be better.
Because I'd say even Jamie had moments like that, but like Zoe was there to be like,
Yeah, and Ben didn't have that. Ben didn't have someone to point out that they're being a sexist douchebag.
Yeah, the closest he got was like Polly being like, don't call me Duchess, but then like hooking up with him, basically.
Right. So they land on the space station, and they were trying to get to the moon.
But Harry punched a button.
Yeah. Harry just touched some things, so now they're not at the moon.
That's not going to be the last time he does that.
No, apparently I think he makes a habit of it. They show up in this... It's a great set, by the way. The inside of the space station.
There's a lot of good design in this serial.
Yeah, I really love the suits.
For the most part. You mean the bell-bottom suits?
Yeah, the bell-bottom suits the like crew of the space station wear, I think, are fantastic.
Well, you know, when you're in the 70s and you're going, what are people going to wear in the future? They're going to wear, I mean, obviously still bell-bottoms, but like bell-bottom spacesuits, because that's the future. It's all about like, what do we have now that's like cutting edge, that's like the new thing, this is going to be around forever, but then like, it's a spacesuit, though.
But honestly, it probably is. Like, by the time there's space stations, everyone will be like, remember bell-bottoms? That was a good idea.
It'll just circle back around.
Let's bring those back.
There's already space stations.
I mean, like
this.
Yeah, they're living up there and stuff. Like a whole bunch of them. Not like 4 people hanging out.
Also, like...
I do still think bell-bottoms are a good idea. So I stand by.
Also, they're looking around the place, and there's tons of, like, monitors and buttons and switches and everything, and then, like, the doctor's like, it's so advanced. I'd say it's late 29th century, early 30th century technology. And I'm like, I feel like people imagined computers were going to get bigger and bigger when instead they got smaller and smaller.
Yeah, because the computers are still running tapes.
Microfilm.
And they're the buttons. I mean, they're very advanced. They look like 70s buttons.
It looks cool, though.
Yeah.
I mean, the doctor tests the gravity with a yo-yo from his pocket, which doesn't that come back in Kill the Moon? I'm pretty sure the doctor tests gravity with a yo-yo.
I know the yo-yo's back. I don't know if he tested gravity with it, but probably. It seems like a good use of it.
The gravity is fine. The air, however, is not great. There's not a lot of it.
It's a limited supply. Get it while it's still there. Get there early.
So this is the point where
Sarah finds a room.
Well, Harry Sullivan starts to touch things he shouldn't.
And a wall opens up, and Sarah kind of wanders through it, and then it closes.
She's like, guys, look. There's a room. And, like, nobody cares.
So she's just like, well, fine, fuck you guys. I'm gonna go through. And the door slams shut. And it's like 10, 20 minutes later that they're finally like,
hey, where's Sarah?
That took a little too long.
I will say that, this is a good serial, but, like, the pace is a little slow. Even for a four-parter. It works sometimes, though. I feel like it
takes its time to do certain things that are interesting.
I think it's establishing a mood rather than just being slow because it's a six-parter or something.
But there is even less oxygen in this room than there was in the other room. So she is fading fast. They're
trying to figure out where she went, and the doctor basically yelling at Harry about, like, what did you press? What did you touch?
What did you do? And Harry Sullivan's like, nothing.
I pressed one button. What does it matter?
But it didn't do anything. He's like, which one exactly? And he can't remember. It's like,
I think it's this one.
There's a lot of them. I don't know.
Why would you press a button? Like, that'd be like walking into like an airplane cockpit and just like smashing a button.
And those buttons were not marked. I didn't see any labels. I didn't see any little stickers or engravings. You'd think they would mark the buttons.
I mean, he did it in the TARDIS. He's in a spaceship he's never been inside of that's bigger on the inside. That's in flight. And he's just like, I wonder what this lever does.
Harry Sullivan is an imbecile.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of person you don't want in an airplane. Like, he'll just wander into the cockpit and push things and pull things and...
It seems like he has limited impulse control.
Yeah, because that happened. Something happens later that also fits in with that. But they do get the door open and they go in there, and Sarah Jane has passed out because she's ran out of air. And then they're trying to move her out of the room, and the door shuts behind them, and now they're all locked in the room.
This seems like a design flaw.
Well, I mean, it's faulty wiring.
Device that opens up the door on the other side is broken. Plus, normally there'd be air.
The doctor starts looking around at stuff, and he's trying to figure out how to get the air back on, and says that these cables have been sheared.
I like that the device that feeds oxygen to the room is a hairdryer.
It's just a hairdryer, like, attached to the wall.
Because that seems like when you're making the set, this is obviously the thing that needs to go here, because it needs to work, right? You can't just put a tube there or like a hole or
like a vent. A vent would make sense, but no.
A cutout piece of a plastic container. Like, you could literally put anything there, and it's like, no, we're gonna do a hairdryer.
It's like those hand dryer things when you in bathrooms, like you have to press the button and then put your hands under.
There's nothing worse than going to a bathroom and that's the only option.
Those things do not work,
and they're gross. Everything I've seen about them is like, they're basically just blowing bacteria at you. Congratulations, They're the worst. Your hands are now dirty.
But the doctor gets the air turned back on, and also says that the cables were sheared, but also maybe bitten, so...
I love when the doctor, like, casually drops something like that. That's so ominous.
And so presumptive.
Where he's like, yeah, these cables were definitely cut. Or were they? Or did a giant... Like, he just gives too much information than you could gather by just deductive reasoning alone. He's like, or did a really big bug bite it? I guess we'll find out.
Can we point out that the doctor uses the sonic screwdriver a lot in this episode?
To unscrew something.
Well, not just that, but to fix the bitten things.
Yeah. That's how he rewires the place and gets the air back on.
There's a lot of stuff that the sonic screwdriver gets used for that ends up like being mainstay functions. And also a screw.
I'm very pleased whenever he uses it to screw or unscrew something. When it's being used as what was its primary function, it gives me good joy.
This might be the first time the Sonic has fixed something. Usually it like blows stuff up. The doctors use it to open locks before, but it's usually like he's breaking it and it sparks and stuff. But I don't think he's ever really fixed anything with the Sonic before. Not that I can recall. Maybe.
So they put Sarah on is it a gurney or?
Yeah, it's like a little table. She's like waking up and Harry calls, is this when he calls her an old girl?
He calls
and she's
her
like,
old girl and she's...
If you call me old girl one more time, I will spit in your face.
I love that line.
I think she says spit in your eye.
Yeah.
Which seems worse. I will particularly make sure that I get it in your eye.
And she seems very pleased to be telling him this. Also, he's like, I'll go get you some brandy. Like, there's gonna be brandy on this ship.
Well, no, the doctor says, I've got some brandy.
Ah, okay.
In the TARDIS.
Yeah, it's in the TARDIS, and that comes back.
And I like that Sarah Jane is like, no.
I hate brandy.
I hate brandy.
What is it with why is brandy medicine in this show? Like, is that a real thing?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's just like the alcohol, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know. I know there was like a lot of like, you should just take brandy. It's good for your nerves and makes you feel better.
Because I mean, isn't the like coughing syrup is sort of similar to like alcohol? I know people get drunk off of it.
I don't know. I mean, I know like a lot of times people would just use brandy to like treat things. Like as sort of a catch-all.
Brandy as a medicine.
Like the way people use like vinegar or something.
What's it supposed to do?
That's what I'm wondering.
What alcohol does, it makes you feel good. So if you're like, I feel kind of shitty, where it's like, have some alcohol, you'll feel much better.
What are the curative properties of brandy?
Brandy.
Write in if you know.
I thought you were asking Siri or something.
No, I'm asking.
He was
the
saying it out
audience.
loud as he was typing it into Google.
There's natural warming properties. There's antioxidant properties. It's good to help you sleep.
Most of the times I've seen it in like TV and movies where someone's like, you should have some brandy. It's like it'll calm your nerves kind of thing. Of course it's a sleep aid. All alcohol is a sleep aid.
Slows nerve
If you
reactions.
use it right.
I mean, that may be what he's wanting to do is like...
But isn't the problem that she's a little too relaxed? And she needs air is what she needs.
Not yet. She's about to get real relaxed.
But they open the door, and actually this is something I really like, because the doctor fixes the air and the door, but also turns the, basically, security system back on by fixing things.
Yeah, and this is when the dentist lamp comes down from the ceiling.
The dentist lamp.
The dentist lamp,
That's a
yes.
good description.
How would you describe it?
I don't know, because it wouldn't be as good. I'd just be like, that lightning bulb thingy.
The ceiling robot.
The ceiling fan that does the shooty.
I don't know, the doctor moves, because the doctor sees it coming down, and he moves Harry out of the way. And Harry straight up comes out of his shoe.
Yeah, he just steps out of his loafer, and the loafer gets shot.
Because it's organic material.
Yeah, it's leather, right?
Yeah, you seem to have an issue with things being considered organic.
I don't know.
But everything that got shot was like cotton or wood or leather. So it all counts.
Is there nothing else in the room made out of organic materials?
Apparently not.
Yeah, it's probably actually kind of old. Like old school to have things made out of organic materials when, you're not on Earth.
So everything else is inorganic.
Probably, yeah.
Good to know. Meanwhile, in the other room, Sarah Jane is still on that table, and she's like, what's going on? And then just sort of like stops and starts smiling, and then lays down to take a nap. And I was like, what the hell is happening? And then she disappears.
Yeah, she just fades away.
And
Which
I'm like,
is even more startling.
I have no idea what's happening. I love this.
Yeah, that's always my favorite feeling when watching Doctor Who. When something happens and you're just like, what? 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 Even a second time? Even more intensely?
Well, she got high, and she laid down, and then she got teleported.
The thing she was on was basically a trans map.
Yeah, but it's like at that point you're like, okay, where are we going with this? You take me on whatever journey you're about to take me. Let's go.
After a brief scene of more things getting shot by the...
Let's see, there's the hat gets shot, the doctor's hat. He puts it up on a car antenna or something. No, a radio antenna that he brought.
Why does he have that?
You know the Doctor's pockets are bigger on the inside and just full of shit.
Yeah, we already saw that in Robot too.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of junk. So he's got this radio antenna that he pulls out and he puts his hat on it and lifts it up behind the table, and it gets shot by the ceiling thing.
Because the hat's organic.
Yes.
Because it's made of organic material. It's not a vegan hat. Wait, even if it were, it's not a synthetic hat. Because it might be a vegan hat, but probably not. It's probably animal material.
So Sarah Jane wakes up, or she's not fully awake. She's just laying on this thing.
Very fuzzy.
Yeah.
I like the sort of acting that she's doing here, actually, where it seems very clear that she's like basically on some kind of drug. That she's like trying to like get up and like what's happening, what's going on, and at the same time she's like, no,
I feel good.
yeah, no, actually, this is nice, this is fine, and like falling back asleep.
There's classical music playing. And there's this very soft voice that starts speaking. And it's like, you're being processed. We thank you for your whatever.
I like everything about the word choice that the soft voice says. Because it's like designed to be very calming and at the same time very alarming to you.
And it's while this is happening that the Doctor unscrews the screw. These scenes are happening. They're cutting back and forth.
They call the thing she's in a casket, and they salute her for her sacrifice.
Yes, but at the same time, like, this very nice, like, the voice is very soothing, and the music is very relaxing, and it's very clear that, like, whatever is happening is, like, being under, like, laughing gas or something.
Right. The voice is the High Minister of Earth.
Yeah, which, it's great, because it makes it a very, like, stressful scene to watch.
But, the Doctor is unscrewing the thing, because they're hiding underneath this What is the point of that thing?
The desk? It's just a desk.
It's just a desk?
Yeah.
It's just a desk. And the screw that they unscrewed, by the way, was the screws that hold the desk down so that they can use the table as a sort of disguise. Hence the title of this episode, Eight-Legged Non-Organic Table Beast.
The important thing is that the two of them are underneath the desk on their hands and knees, shuffling the desk forward, and it's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. It was so dumb in the best way. I loved it a lot. It's like exactly the way you should solve problems, I feel like, in ways that make, like, the people doing them look absurd. Silly. But it's also really clever. There's nothing better than that.
This isn't as clever, but does it rank up there with the Doctor and Joe wiggling underneath the Master's TARDIS?
Yeah.
Door
it's pretty
thing?
Good. It's actually it is better in that it's more clever, but not as ridiculous. So they're on pretty even playing fields that way.
But they see a control panel on the wall that supposedly deactivates the ceiling lamp. So the Doctor tries to throw his scarf at it, but it gets shot.
He's so upset too. Who does he say gave him the scarf?
Madame Nostradamus, witty little netter.
Who's that?
The person who made the scarf.
Yeah.
I know, but I assume it's someone historically.
It's someone who did a lot of like predictions, right?
Well, that's Nostradamus, but that was probably not the same person. This was Madame Nostradamus.
Ah, I didn't catch that.
So who's that?
Someone who knits and probably also makes predictions that are wildly inaccurate.
Makes predictions through knitting. Like you just get done knitting a scarf and then have to read the scarf.
Well, that's very similar to the plot of Wanted, the movie.
By the time you're done knitting the scarf, it's already happened.
When you were doing it, it was a prophecy.
And then when you're reading it, it's like, oh, this already happened.
I'm Googling it, and all I'm getting is Doctor Who stuff.
Well, it's a Doctor Who idea, of course. It's a character from Doctor Who we haven't seen.
I didn't know if it was referencing, like, a real person. But apparently it might have been Nostradamus' wife.
Well, that's an easy assumption to make, I suppose. Just from the name.
Oh, he solved that mystery. So Harry tries to throw the yo-yo.
I like how confident he is about it, too. They're trying to get that switch, and he's like, if I had a cricket ball, I could have done it. No problem. Absolutely.
The Doctor's like, well, here, try this. Like, okay, we've already established that it's an organic thing, organic sensor. But they keep chucking organic shit.
Well, they're hoping to find an angle where it's safe to do that. Because they want to turn off this thing, right? And they're going to have to throw something, and apparently all they have is organic shit.
That's actually a pretty neat little camera trickery, I think, because he throws the yo-yo.
Chucks the yo-yo
and then just pieces of it fly back at them.
Because, I mean, it's probably easier to throw the yo-yo than it is to throw, like, Harry's watch.
Well, they actually, the next thing they throw Harry's remaining shoe as a distraction so that they can mess with the controls.
To the controls, yeah.
And it works.
I love that for the rest of the serial, Harry Sullivan does not have shoes.
He's like John McClaning it through the rest of the serial.
There should have been some broken glass.
Should have been.
I get so distressed because it just makes me think of Susan being left on Earth with only one shoe. Where it's like, you can leave her, that's fine. But give her back her shoe.
Well, I mean, she can get more shoes.
I mean, she's on the planet where they make shoes. It's where shoes come from.
Harry Sullivan can't get any new shoes unless he takes some off of one of the bodies that we will come across. But yeah, who knew Harry Sullivan was the proto John McClane?
But he brings his charred shoes as they leave the room.
Yeah, they're still his shoes.
He's not going to litter.
He's going to look for a garbage disposal.
Or a cobbler.
Do you think he doesn't have shoes for like the rest of this season?
That'd be delightful.
I suspect the Doctor has some spare shoes.
Yeah, but he probably doesn't want to give them any because he thinks it's funny.
Or doesn't even notice.
Oh yeah, Harry, he doesn't wear shoes.
It's like 4 or so adventures in. I've been meaning to ask him about it, but...
So,
Harry just stumbles into the wardrobe and is pissed.
So then they go back and they see that Sarah Jane has disappeared. They find out that it's a matter transmitter, and then the Doctor's like, but it's gotta be through some science jargon. He's like, she didn't get transported that far away. She has to be somewhere nearby.
It's local only. Short range.
Yeah, because they're like, well, let's go look for Sarah Jane. And they walk out in this really cool hallway.
Ooh, it's fantastic, because they're in, presumably, like, the wheel bit. And there's windows on the top and on the bottom where you can just see space.
Which is probably just black with, like, little dots painted on it, but it looks cool.
Yeah, it's pretty effective.
I don't think it's the outer wheel bit. I think it's the inner, because it's like, it's immediately around the rooms. I think the wheel bit is probably farther out, I would presume.
But it looks cool.
Then they go to Area Q, which is where they keep Star Trek villains and naughty puppets.
And it triggers this recording that's like, hey, don't go in here.
And the Doctor says,
bad.
And opens the door.
And they see like a green thing slip away, and then they find stuff on the floor, right?
Yeah, it bugs me so much. They do the thing that they just keep doing. Usually they do it with a female companion, but this time they did it with Harry Sullivan.
Did!
Which is that Harry's like, I saw a thing, which he sees like this sluggy thing slip away. He's like, I saw a creature, and the Doctor's like, no, you didn't.
There's no reason for the Doctor to be like, nah. The Doctor knows that there's something on the ship. He's said as much.
Yeah, the Doctor just likes to gaslight people and likes to take all the glory and be like, yeah, you didn't see anything. When I see something, we've seen something.
He's encountered so much weird shit. He should be used to this by now. But every time he's like, nah, you didn't see nothing.
Nah, that's not what happened.
But yeah, they do see a slime trail, and he's like, well, maybe you're not full of shit. Maybe.
Can I say, on the grub, so the thing about this cereal...
The slime trail, by the way, is plastic wrap that's been tinted green.
Yeah, it seems like we have a spiritual successor to foam, which is bubble wrap.
Well, it's bubble wrap and just regular plastic wrap. Yeah, it's like green cling wrap. I don't know if it's like they've taken just regular cling wrap and put green on it, or if they got green cling wrap. I'm assuming they probably put green on the cling wrap on the other side.
I think it's effective enough for the little grub thing that Harry has seen at this point. Like, the first time I saw that grub thing, I was like, alright, that's...
But the slime does not look like slime. It looks like somebody left a piece of cling wrap on the floor.
I didn't notice that, to be honest.
I mean, it's because I don't know the consistency of the slime. It read enough to me. I think if I had been like, that's cling wrap, then once that had been like in my brain, I wouldn't be able to see it as anything else.
I immediately saw it as cling wrap. I was like, that is cling wrap.
I could see it not reading. But the bubble wrap on the creature reads okay to me. It wasn't actually until we see the bubble wrap later that I was like, oh, that's what's happening. This isn't great.
The bubble wrap definitely becomes more obvious later.
I can see how, like, you make the creature, right? And you're like, that looks great. And then you get stuck using the bubble wrap later in an effect that's not as effective.
Not as good, yeah.
The thing was, back then, they made use of the fact that people's TVs were shit. So they were like, oh, it's on TV. It doesn't matter. People aren't going to notice what we make things out of. It's just, it reads. And then you look at it like, what is it, 50, 40 something years later? And it's like, no, that's bubble wrap. That's cling wrap.
Well, especially when it's in motion. So, like, when, like, the little grub monster is crawling around, it reads better because you can see in less detail. And then later it's like the guy's hand and it's just standing still and it's holding on it for ages and it's so close up. You're like, I'm getting too much info for this to work.
Because I think even the bubble wrap hand, at some points you don't really notice it because he's running around doing stuff and it looks fine. So right now they go into the area Q. It's basically a cryogenic repository, which also has a shit ton of microfilm because he presses some buttons. There's like numbers on the wall that's full of like
drawers,
card catalog, like from a library, but full of microfilm.
What is
all
microfilm?
The history of humans?
Is that like the thing where you go to the library and you can look at documents on that big,
like newspapers and stuff?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, that is the what did you call it? The media of the future?
Yeah, it's the storage media of the future. That's what microfilm is. That's what we're gonna be using.
I can't wait. I won't be alive in the 30th century. What am I talking about?
I will.
Well, it is the future now. We're using microfilm all the time.
Are we?
You know, the Watch-A-Thon of Rassilon is on microfilm, right?
We distribute the podcast through microfilm.
Yeah.
I thought you were aware. Like, basically, we take it and we mail it to our subscribers. And they get it in the mail.
Right.
They get a little envelope.
And then they go to the library.
And they just rapidly change the slides.
Right.
For like an hour and a half.
Thanks for describing how this podcast works. I had no idea.
It's the future.
The microfilm of Rassilon. All right.
I actually think it would be great to get podcasts in the mail, like once a month. That'd be I would love that.
You would?
I like getting mail. It makes me feel like
you could probably get podcasts in your email.
That's not the same. I want to get like an envelope.
Okay, so listeners, if you're a listener who feels like downloading podcasts, recording them onto tape, and putting them in an envelope and sending them to Tony, what's your budget for this? What do you want to pay for this subscription?
I'll pay for the cost of shipping.
Are you sending out podcasts or are you getting podcasts?
Oh, I thought I was subscribing to podcasts.
Okay, are people sending you our podcasts?
People could subscribe. We could provide that service where we put the podcast on cassette tapes and then send it out to people. I'd do that.
Right. That's going to be a Patreon level.
Yeah, we'll just figure out what it costs to, like, ship and what it costs to, like, continually buy cassette tapes. It doesn't have to be cassette tapes. It could be compact discs.
Flash drives?
Flash drives.
Flash drives are expensive. CDs are definitely cheaper.
It's just a piece of paper with the download link on it.
But you do get something physically in the mail.
Yeah. Okay, so the Harry sort of pieces together like, this must be some sort of, like, lifeboat. Some sort of ark in space.
That is essentially what he says, yeah.
Harry pieces that together.
Yeah, because then the doctor sort of compliments him on it.
He does. He's like...
In, like, the dickish way possible.
We have to remember that that's Harry who figures that out. Because just moments later, Harry finds the people who are in this ark, in this lifeboat, and he immediately declares them dead.
It's such an Ian thing to do. Only...
That's what I wrote in my notes. I wrote, Harry declares the people dead. What is he, Ian?
To be fair, he is a doctor, and he did check for actual signs of life, and they didn't have any. He just doesn't know what cryogenics is.
I'm not sure the director knows what cryogenics is. There's also the whole cryogenics thing, but even setting that aside, these people, I'm not sure they're frozen. There are no signs of frozenness.
Well, maybe they're just, like, de-animated. Not necessarily frozen.
Yeah, but they're saying cryogenics several times. And that means freezing things. Not specifically freezing people, but freezing things.
I do like the pods, by the way. They look like big people jello molds.
Here's the thing, the doctor's like, they're not dead, they're just sleeping. And like, Harry just like straight up opens one. Don't do that!
That seems like a really dumb idea, because he doesn't understand this technology, but again, with the pushing buttons and...
No impulse control.
Oh, I don't understand this technology. I'm gonna fuck with it.
He's like, they're all dead. And the doctor's like, no, they're not. And he's like, sure they are, see? And like goes, and what he's doing is like...
Potentially killing someone.
No, but he is checking, like, medically what's going on with them, because he is a doctor.
But for all he knows, opening the lid might kill the person who is alive. Like,
Well, he's thoroughly convinced that they're dead, though.
that's after he opens it, right?
No, he's convinced that they're... He's like, we're in a morgue. And so he thinks that they're dead. He opens it to be like, yeah, see? I checked.
Super dead.
Super dead.
But it could very easily be, for as far as he knows, that when you open the casket, the person dies because the lid is keeping them alive. Because he doesn't understand this technology, and he knows he doesn't understand this technology, so for all he knows, that could be.
Don't think he does know that he doesn't understand it. He's just like, I came up with an idea. It's 100% right. See? At no point has it crossed his mind that there is something going on that he doesn't understand here. He's too oblivious to his own ignorance. Hence why he's so impulsive. Because you're right, he totally could have killed them. But that never occurred to him one single time.
That would have occurred to me immediately. I would have been like, okay, these people are either alive or dead. If they're alive, anything I do might kill them, because they don't seem very alive. They seem very close to dead at the least. So if I do anything, it might kill them. I should probably not do anything.
I should probably not touch that. Which is a thought Harry Sullivan has probably never had.
He would have gone up to like the boy in the plastic bubble and like, what are you doing in this dumb thing? And just rip it open. Killing John Travolta instantly.
Some people would not have liked that.
So the doctor has a very fantastic monologue about humans and humanity and how they just persevere.
Yeah, it's he makes a nice little post-racial statement there.
It proceeds to reveal that everyone in the serial is white. Race doesn't matter unless you're the BBC.
To be fair, Vira was supposed to be black.
Oh, really?
And Haitian, yeah.
What happened?
The director was like, I don't like that.
Oh, okay. Racism happened. Got it.
Racism happened.
The huge.
But yeah, it does really undercut that monologue of like, we're in the future and we've transcended all like discrimination, but we're not really. So
Yeah, we've eliminated race by eliminating all the other races. That's the implication.
By making sure everyone is white.
That's what's easy to infer from this unfortunate coupling of concepts.
We're trying so hard to be in the future.
But it's the 70s.
But we're not.
And they don't seem very inclusive when they do finally wake up and are like, who are these outsiders? And
right.
They could be contaminating our perfectness.
Contaminate our perfect DNA, which I thought they were going to challenge more.
Again, with we've specifically designed this gene pool, and it's like, this is not a post-racial thing at all.
This is a group of space white nationalists.
Yeah, these are eugenics people.
Oh no, that totally changes the whole thing.
I don't think that was intentional.
That wasn't the writer's intent, but that was what it ended up being.
That is kind of a read you can come up with, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's like, here comes the doctor. Oh, it's the future, and we've transcended race, and everything's great. And then, hey, we're genetically selected white people.
I do think that there was intent to challenge that idea more. The doctor and Harry are like, when they're talking with him, and they're like, yeah, you're whatever. You know, you're very romantic because you have a lot of feelings instead of being very logical and seeing everything for its function. It does happen a little bit, but not as much as I would like. I think there was like the intent there, but other ideas became more interesting. The doctor very clearly thinks this idea is dumb. They revive one person. What's her name?
Vira.
And she's like the med tech who's supposed to revive everyone. And they're trying to get her to revive Sarah Jane. I've skipped forward ahead, but I'm...
Finish your thought.
Yes. But they're trying to get her to like wake her up. And Vira's like, oh, does she have value? And they're like, well, she's a person. So intrinsically, yes.
So there's more transparent green plastic in the vent, right?
Yeah, it's like leading up to one of the pods, and they're just, and like Harry's like, maybe it was a dusty. We set off the thing, and there was dust, and it was a draft, It's the dumbest possible explanation for why there's a trail of slime.
I was just thinking about us reading the cling wrap as slime so easily. When we were watching it, we had technical issues and had to watch it on the laptop instead of our TV so that Joe could take notes and have the stream up and the thing. We watched it in the window we were watching it was pretty small.
Oh, then you probably got something closer to the intended experience.
Yeah.
We had a shitty TV, a shitty 70s TV, and we were like, yeah, that's great. That looks exactly like slime.
Yeah, it's probably about that big.
Yeah, meanwhile, I was like, that looks exactly like cling wrap. It's cling wrap that's been like tied to the grates or just stuffed through the grates of the vent, and it's just laying on the floor, and it's like that's just plastic.
That's probably exactly why it was more effective for
us. But it's definitely not a dusty draft. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I've got a lot of dust in the house, and most of it's not green.
They also discover that in one of the pods is Sarah Jane. And the doctor is just like, we can't resuscitate her. It's not possible.
Yeah, she's going to be been suspended animation for at least 3,000 years, even if we had a resuscitation device. And then Harry goes and looks in a closet and a big bug falls on him.
That's the end.
The end.
I like the way the bug falls.
I think the intended impression is that, there's a monster attacking him, but it's pretty clear that it's just falling on him.
Sometimes, because of the way things work in classic Doctor Who, you're like, was that
what
a
were they
shitty...
intending?
Yeah. Was that a shitty monster where, like, that didn't work? Because the prop just sort of fell on him instead of attacking him? Or is that a dead bug? Like, that's the cliffhanger. How was I supposed to have read that?
The cliffhanger is Schrodinger's monster.
But then at the beginning of the next episode, we find out, no, it was dead. It fell on the floor.
It wasn't a poorly executed monster. It was fine.
Doctor Who
was supposed to look dead.
Doctor Who loves its giant insects. This is like the third or fourth serial with a giant bug.
To be fair, it's because they're awful.
That's
It's because
fair.
you make a big-ass bug and you're like, everyone's immediate response is, oh no! It's like that thing that I hate, but bigger than me.
I just find it interesting that there's so many bug creatures out there in the universe that just look like flies, but huge.
They're trying to play on primal fears. I think the spiders probably work better for that, but
Why don't we have a planet of giant dogs?
These giant dogs aren't scary.
I want a planet of giant puppers.
I mean, you are correct. There should be a planet of giant dogs.
there definitely should be, but if they're going for primal fear, the thing is, giant bugs, we've evolved from tiny creatures that evolved to be afraid of bugs that are bigger than them. So when we see a bug that's bigger than us, we get scared, unless it looks like it's made of papier-mâché.
That was the end of episode 1. We're now into episode 2, which I have called Noah's Ark.
I have called it Episode 2.
And I have called it Bubble Wrap Trouble.
And John Lucarati called it Puffball.
Okay. I feel like he wrote a much more adorable episode.
Buttercups,
This episode seems
puffballs.
much softer. It's definitely got like a pastel aesthetic going on.
There's definitely a theme.
So the bug dies, and they...
Well, the bug is dead.
Well, the bug is dead,
It was-
yes. It didn't
wasn't
die,
alive.
it was dead.
It's been dead a long time.
They find a orange medical kit.
Which Harry's like, this is all some future shit.
Da, 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 da. That's a Legend of Zelda reference. That's for when you find a thing, usually in a box. They find the device, the resuscitation device.
Yeah, which is like a little gun with like a flower on the end of it.
That's not going to help them bring back Sarah Jane because she's going to be asleep for 3,000 years at least, even with a resuscitation device.
That really bothered me. So I was like, why? Like, give me a good reason why we have this gun.
I would presume because she just went to sleep, whereas some people have been here for 3,000 years already.
Yeah, they're like,
Like, you have to do it for 3,000 years for it to be safe? Is that the idea?
Maybe it's the minimum amount of sleep that the machine causes. Maybe there's like a threshold of like when you can be woken up, and it's 3,000 years.
I also feel like the doctor doesn't seem distressed enough about it. But I
Right.
think maybe his thing is like, we couldn't even if we wanted to. But I'll figure it out.
We have a time machine. We can move forward 3,000 years. Pick her up then.
Just go pick her
I
up.
kind of thought that might happen.
I honestly thought that was where they were going with it, where it's like, okay, so she's going to be asleep for 3,000 years. They're going to go in the TARDIS. They're going to come back 3,000 years later, and she's going to be missing or something. Or she's already woken up, or I don't know, something.
But there's a woman coming to in a different pod. I'm not entirely sure why she started coming out of the thing.
I think it's
Is
because it's one of the pods that
Is it because the doctor fixed things and now everything's coming back on?
running
and
like it ought to, and she was supposed to be the first person to wake up?
Either that, or it's a safety measure. Like she has to wake up because something's been meddled with.
It does seem to be her job to wake everyone else up. Like that's her function.
But like Harry gives her the gun and she shoots herself with it, the little resuscitation gun.
And this is like the first really annoying thing that Harry says.
It's not the first. But go ahead.
No, you're right. That's like the second or third.
He says, independent sort of bird, isn't she?
Everyone groans.
Everyone's like, what?
What the hell are you on about? This isn't the worst thing he says yet, either. That's coming up.
Yeah, no, it gets worse.
But yeah, she's questioning who they are. And
My favorite thing, too, is like once she wakes up, she cannot understand a fucking thing Harry Sullivan is saying. Which, to be fair, like neither can I. Because at this point, I'm also in the future. I'm far enough in the future to be like, what is he saying? I'm with her.
What is this odd 70s slang?
When Vira wakes up, she's like a bit like glassy-eyed and slow-speaking, and it's like they're trying to play it like, oh, she's like part robot, or she's a zombie or something. Like that's the vibe I'm getting, that they're trying to like fool us, but then that sort of goes nowhere when she sort of gets stabilized.
I think the idea is that they're just this is a very, like, utilitarian version of humanity. And so she's just very straightforward and logical. It's just how those people function. And so she's very even and...
Well, I think he's talking about, like, before she even says anything, and she's, like, coming out of the pod with, like, her
all
arms.
stiff.
Yeah.
It's when she comes out, and then her first few lines when she's speaking very sort of slowly and specifically. It feels like they're trying to sell this idea that, you know, there might be something wrong with these people, but then she sort of stabilizes and it's fine.
Yeah, it's mostly just that she's coming out of the cryogenic.
Rochelle, and she's doing just fine.
Oh, they start talking about being maybe doctors or med techs, and the doctor says that his title is honorary and Harry is only qualified to work on sailors.
Which is a fantastic explanation.
And then she's like, I'm also medical, and I'm the person who's gonna wake everyone up. And then
And also, who the fuck are you?
And then they're like, hey, if you are the resuscitator person, can you resuscitate Sarah Jane?
And this is when I made the note, did the doctor misuse the term cryogenic, or are these people supposed to be frozen? Because to me, it does not seem like these people are on ice.
Maybe they're frozen at like a molecular level so that it's like, it doesn't appear icy. She also like does a thing to Sarah Jane, and then she's like, well, she'll either survive or die.
That covers all of it.
Those are the options.
Those are the possibilities. For every person, in every situation, ever. They will either survive or die. It's like, hey, I'm going to the store. I will either survive or die.
Most likely survive, but it's still a possibility.
I mean, the percentages might be different, but like, the question isn't whether those are the options, but which is more likely. And that is not something that gets answered.
Because she just leaves and goes and revives their leader.
What does she call him?
Well, first she calls him
Prime Unit.
Yeah, Prime Unit, which is their leader. They do have this like specific way of speaking, but like I feel like
That gets dropped.
Yeah, that gets dropped, especially when they start waking up more people, and there's the one guy that's kind of funny.
It's kind of like when Cassiel gets like introduced. He's the first angel. He's playing it like as a very odd, like a creature who doesn't understand humanity and is very sort of alien and weird. Well, and then other angels show up and none of them are like that. He's like, I thought I was like establishing the mythology of like, this is what angels are like. And it turns out I'm just a fucking weird angel. And that's kind of what happens here.
But she revives the leader, who she calls Noah. And I was like, really?
It's a nickname. It's a joke.
It's an amusement.
That was like in the first draft, and then someone went, Nah.
No, that's a joke.
Well, his real name is Laser.
I'm not sure how they spell that.
I'm not sure either. I think it may be Lazar, but I'm not sure. But it's Laser.
Like, Laser is just as bad. Like, just kidding. His name's not really Noah. That would be dumb. His real name's Zap Zaps.
Mr. Poopy Butthole.
His real name is Moses. That's weird. There's a technical problem with Noah. Like, he's not resuscitating. I don't remember what it is, but the doctor's going to go fix it.
I think it's a power failure? Or there's some sort of fault somewhere.
Well, I think, like, the bug, one of the bug is going around doing shit in the solar stacks, and the doctor's going to go fix it.
But these people don't know about the bug.
We see the bug doing the stuff. There's, like, a caterpillar thing turning a handle on a device that does something. And we're supposed to go, oh no, something is happening. But yeah, the doctor goes to go take care of that, and that's when Harry says the thing about gremlins.
He says gremlins can get into anything.
Vera's very, like, there shouldn't be any faults. This thing is unsinkable, is her attitude.
And his attitude is gremlins can get into anything.
When he says that, Vira just looks at him like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Why are you here?
You haven't
what
said
words are you saying?
any word that I understand.
Yeah, he's just making naval comments.
Talking about gremlins and independent birds. But Noah does get revived, and he's not happy about Harry.
They're calling him a regressive, and he's like, I'm no regressive, I'm a naval officer.
He's definitely not progressive.
I would say he's regressive. Because he's not catching up with women's lib, as they called it back then.
Somehow, he grew on me in this episode, though.
It's
very confusing.
He grew on me and away from me at the same time, somehow.
Well, like, first of all, he had more of a personality.
Because he's not being like a asshole constantly. He's just being kind of an idiot.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where, like...
He says dumb stuff, but he's not a bad guy.
It definitely seems like it's more, like, ignorance than, like,
Malice.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like when your, like, grandpa says something racist, and you're like, Grandpa, please don't.
But Sarah Jane starts...
As opposed to when your uncle says something racist, and you're like...
He should know better.
But Sarah Jane starts waking up, too, and Noah's like, they can't be here. They risk fucking with the genetic what's-it that we got going on. Noah's told that there's another dude going to go fix something in the solar stacks. He's like, well, I'm going to go find the doctor, because all these people are interfering with our stuff. So he goes and finds the doctor, and the doctor's like, I have to turn this thing off because of the reasons of the bugs and everything. They're doing bad shit. And Noah's like, nah, and shoots the doctor with this, like, blue overlay thing.
I have to say, I really enjoy the doctor's reaction to this, because it seems very different from the way any doctor we've had before would have reacted, but still very much the doctor, as I know him. His immediate reaction is to kind of be like, hey, like, he's a little hurt, I think. He's like, listen, like, let's just talk about it. Whereas I feel like 3 would be, like, annoyed and, like, sort of chastise him for having a gun. 2 would probably... 2 plays, I think, like, oh no. Like, he would be like...
I feel like 1 would be angry, 3 would do a karate chop.
Well, 1 would just be angry. I feel like 3 would, like, do a karate chop and be like, really? You're dumb. And I don't know what 2 would do. 2
would do something silly.
Yeah, he would, like, get out of it by being a goofball somehow. And 4 just seems like genuinely like, hey buddy, I'm your friend and I'm here to help. Calm down. It's okay. I don't know. It struck me as like a particular, something different is being done here, but in a way that like super rings true to who he is as a character.
The 4th Doctor is a big growing experience for the character of the Doctor. Being the 4th Doctor, I think he gained a lot as a person.
Yeah, like his immediate reaction isn't just like, this is a situation that's happening, how can I get out of it? His immediate reaction is more like concerned with like the person involved.
He's a very compassionate person, I think. I mean, we saw that from the naive post-racial speech earlier.
Also, when Noah left, Vira was all like telling them, you guys should probably leave. Get out of here, because
authorized to kill you if he needs to.
So you might want to get out of here, but they don't. They also find that one of the other crew members is missing. Dune.
And they blame everybody who is new.
Because that's what happens, because we're watching Doctor Who.
It's like something happened, must be the new guy's fault.
Then Noah, after he shoots the doctor, calls Vira over the intercom, and they sort of fill each other in on like, hey, Dune's missing. Hey, I shot the doctor. I'm going to go check out the stacks that he was talking about, because he said there's like some sort of creature there. I'm going to go check that out.
So when the doctor was finding the creature down in the basement or whatever it was, we got a really good view of the bubble wrap. It was like the big bubble wrap.
That one worked okay, and it had like a big giant eye thing going on.
I actually liked that a lot.
Yeah, it worked, but you can tell that it's like those big package bubble wraps.
We were watching it in a very small window, which made it easier for it to be effective.
Yeah, it's a mix of different sizes of bubble wrap actually that they've used. Now that I'm looking at it, because I've got it open,
and it's like pulsating and stuff too.
Yeah, I like the way the eye kind of like swims around.
And it's backlit, which the backlight helps.
And it's like smushing up against a glass. It's in there like, I don't know, incubating or something, possibly. I don't know. It's being gross. But it breaks out of the thing, because I guess it's done stewing.
It was absorbing the power, and that's why the doctor wanted to turn it
Solar
off.
energy.
Yeah, he wanted to turn it off because it was using it to get stronger, and that's what he was doing
when
he got
Noah interrupted him.
shot.
But then Noah goes to just check it out, just to see if what the doctor was saying was true. And he goes in there, and the giant slime creature reaches out his bubble wrap appendage and wipes some slime on him, on his hand. And he's like, ugh! And then like dramatically passes out. But it like takes him a second. He's just like, ugh! Ugh! And falls down. He overacts a little bit.
In a way that I find delightful, though. I mean, I just genuinely enjoy overacting.
But then the doctor has also fallen down.
Yes, because he's been shot by now. He got shot mid-sentence, too. Harry and Sarah Jane come in, and they wake him up, and he finishes his sentence, like, immediately.
I don't know. Has Sarah Jane woken up all proper yet?
Yeah, Sarah Jane's awake by now. She's full on awake. She's
awake,
still a little disoriented.
and by the way, because she got processed, she's also wearing one of those super sweet bell-bottom spacesuits. That feels important that you all know.
I wonder if she gets to keep it.
I hope so.
I just love when companions get costumes. When they get good outfits.
But he's like, I was in the middle of a very important sentence.
Well, he finishes the sentence. As soon as he gets back, he wakes back up, he finishes the end of the sentence.
Yeah, I know. And he's like, I got shot in the middle of this important sentence. Was it an important sentence? It was an important sentence.
It was the most important sentence.
And he rushes to the stacks, and Noah's there, and Noah gets up looking evil, and he's like, just says that the doctor and everybody sabotaged the thing. Just completely ignoring the fact that there was a bubble wrap creature that attacked him. They go back to the pods area, and Vira is reviving this other guy, whose name I don't remember. And he wakes up, sees Noah, and starts freaking out. And then he's like, oh, never mind.
I thought I saw a horrible shape. And it's like, what's a horrible shape? What's the most horrible shape? Is it rectangle? Is it rhombus? Is it dodecahedron?
I was going to say rhombus. Rhombus
is the worst.
I think it's an amorphous blob.
And then Vira says that it's temporal neural ocular confusion, which feels like just a pile of words that vaguely relate to the subject matter. The writer was like, temporal neural ocular confusion. It'll work. We'll fix it later.
No, you didn't see anything. That's the basic gist of it. You were hallucinating.
Yeah, it's the usual, except they use different words. They use the words temporal neural ocular confusion, which I get the neural ocular. It's clunky, but I get it. It's the brain. It's the eyes. Fine. Confusion, sure. Temporal?
I think maybe
they meant temporary.
Yes.
Maybe that's what they said. Maybe I just heard it wrong. Whatever. The neural ocular, or is it neuroocular?
I think it's neuro.
It seems like that would make more sense in terms of like how you would name conditions.
Your brain's making your eyes see shit that's not there.
Disease. Yeah, it's a very clunky way to say hallucination.
You're waking up, you saw shit. It's fine.
That just doesn't sound sciencey enough.
And then Noah thinks he's Dune for like a second.
Well, he's like, I'm going to go stop the revival process. And Vira's like, what? Why? And then he's like, I'm Dune, and walks out. And I was like, what? What the fuck is happening?
Well, the thing that they're like, Dune is missing, and he's like, no, Dune's not missing. I'm Dune.
I'm right here.
And I guess the implication is that this monster has absorbed both of them and can't quite keep them separate. It's a little bit clunky, but I guess that's what they're going for. That this is basically the thing from the thing.
Yeah, it eats their knowledge. Like, that's a thing that is said a couple times, and like absorbs the knowledge of whoever it kills or whatever.
Yeah, so it's Noah, it's Dune, it's everything that it's collected.
Buggy.
Noah, it's Dune, it's a bug.
It's Buggy McGee. I think the bugs are called worms.
Worms?
Yeah, WIRN, I think. Worms.
Yeah.
I thought they were saying worms for a while, and I was like, that's not a worm, it's a bug.
Yeah, I was a little confused by that too. But if it's Wern, fine, I guess.
But the doctor's like, Noah is the thing, is the bug, and he must be stopped.
Is this after he examines the bug?
Yeah, this is when he's examining the bug, yeah.
Right, because the egg tube is empty. Which I was a little unclear if the bubble wrap was born out of there or if it had just eaten its way in there and then burst out.
I think it was born there. It had been incubating in there for a while.
Because it was a parasite, right?
Yeah, I think the bug laid an egg in the pod, and I don't know.
Because I was a little unclear if the bug was its parents or its host.
I think it was the parent. Because I think Dune was the host.
Yeah, the bug went there specifically to lay eggs or whatever it does.
It got its slime on Dune, and Dune turned into the bug, maybe. Or it got the baby bug, and then the bug scampered away and went to the solar snack.
Yes.
Solar snacks? Solar snacks.
And then Dune is gonna lay eggs?
Well, Dune's gone, isn't he?
I
don't know.
Wait. There's a bunch of bugs already there. Dune's the only, active one, I think. There's about 100 things there.
So the bubble wrap beast is Dune, right? And Noah is gonna become another one of those. And they're both gonna turn into bugs?
I think Noah and Dune are both the same bug. I feel like I had a really good handle on this until you started asking questions, and now I'm also confused.
Because maybe it's two separate bodies, but it's a hive mind? Sorry, hivament?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah, I was a little unclear on that. Sorry for derailing the podcast with conversations about the episode that we've been watching.
The dead bug did something to Dune, and now there's more bugs. That's the basic premise.
So I feel like the dead bug laid about 100 little new bugs, and they're just doing whatever larvae do. And one of them absorbed both Dune and Noah.
Let's go with that.
I'm a little confused by the biology here because it seems like there are 3 different births happening different ways, and I can't quite keep them straight. I mean, if they're being born, if the thing is laying eggs, then why are they infecting people, and how are they turning into bugs, and why?
Yeah, okay, because that's the thing. It seems like the way that they say that it works, like the parasites infect all the people, and then they're born. Those people are basically absorbed. But it doesn't seem to be true that all of the people are already infected, but the larvae seem to already be there.
Wait, so the egg tube is empty because it laid eggs in Dune? And then Dune turned into the bubble wrap creature. And then the bubble wrap creature laid eggs in Noah. And now Noah is turning into a bubble wrap creature that's going to turn into a bug.
But that's the thing. When he turns Noah, it seems like it's just a function of being slimed.
But maybe those are the eggs.
Because presumably, the little grubby version of the thing wouldn't be able to do that. Only the adult version can, lay eggs. And that's what's kind of confusing.
Okay, so I'm gonna just read the TARDIS thing here. Okay, the doctor proceeds to examine Dune's cryogenic pallet. He finds membrane from the alien queen's egg sac and concludes that the queen laid her eggs in Dune's body before she died, and the alien larvae have absorbed Dune's knowledge along with his body.
So it is a hive mind thing. All of the larvae hatched in Dune and have Dune's knowledge. All of them.
Well, wasn't there only one? And now there's a second one coming out of Noah.
You said eggs.
Well, actually, there are shown to be more bugs later.
When they
but I
ask
think
how
they're
many
hiding.
bugs there are, the doctor's like, in one, like, hatching about 100. But I don't know if that means about 100 of them were laid before. Like, the queen laid 100 eggs in Dune. And there's only, like, one fucking around somewhere. Because we've only got one actual grub creature.
Yeah, where's the rest of them?
They're around.
Chilling.
Or is there just one viable?
It's definitely implied that there's, like, a whole bunch of them all over.
We don't see a whole bunch of them.
Either there's only one and then it lays eggs, but that doesn't make sense to me because...
Because it's still a larva.
But when they're, like, when they're pupating, there's a whole bunch.
Well, maybe the bubble wrap creature is a whole bunch of larvae. Like, it's not one thing. It's like the big wad of them. And some of those larvae end up on Noah and absorb him. So they're just eating him. They're not new larvae. They're just the same larva that came from the mother. Okay. I think we figured it out. I'm not satisfied, but let's move on.
We cracked this egg.
There was a line that the doctor had that we just have to pause and just enjoy. The doctor said, "When I'm afraid, Sarah, I'm not making jokes." I like that line.
I don't think that's true, though.
That is definitely not true.
I feel like he makes jokes.
Because he's afraid.
But he basically casually said something, I'm afraid. And then Sarah was like, "Don't make jokes." And he's like, "And I'm afraid I'm not making jokes."
Okay, so this new guy that got revived goes to stop Noah. The doctor convinces him that he's the bug and needs to be stopped. And he goes and he pulls a gun on Noah.
And Noah just takes it.
Very slowly, too.
He's like, "I'm your superior officer." And the guy's like, "Well, I mean, you're right, I guess. Here's the gun. Please shoot me."
And then he walks into this new other room with his hand in his pocket after, he holsters his gun.
Which, everybody holds that gun oddly.
Yeah.
Like it's a cup of tea.
Yeah, because when Noah gives him the gun in the first place to, keep an eye on the doctor and everything, and, he takes the gun from Noah, very gingerly, with a couple fingers instead of, holding it like a gun.
I wonder if he's never had a gun in his life. He's a scientist. He's a tech. An engineer. And so I wonder if he's just, been given a gun for the first time ever and is like, I don't... So when he's got the gun on Noah, Noah's like, just give it. And he's like, fine, I don't even know what it is, to be honest. I don't even know how it works. I've never shot a gun in my life.
But after he shoots the guy, Noah walks into this control room and then pulls his hand out of his pocket and holds it up to the camera. And it's straight up just bubble wrap.
It's just wrapped in green bubble wrap.
Here's the thing. He's gonna mail that hand to you for a subscription fee.
You probably could have gotten away with that if you had done it quickly. If there was a flash of that and you were like, okay, fine, whatever.
And if they had covered it with Vaseline. Just slathered it in lots of Vaseline mixed with food coloring.
If it was a quick moving shot where that's the only time you see it, you could have gotten away with it. But instead, it's like a close-up that they cut back to, that they hold on for minutes, and all he's doing is staring at his hand. I think because at some point there's some audio thing gets triggered. The Prime Minister of, Earth. So there's recording is playing about how important this mission is and how they've been chosen, and he's listening to it while staring in horror at his hand for a very long time. Just still close-up shot of his shitty bubble wrap hand.
The bubble wrap hand is the cliffhanger, too.
Yeah.
That's the end of episode 2. We are now into episode 3, which Toni calls...
Episode 3.
And I call Absorb All Humans.
And I call The Snitch Up of Death.
And Gianluca Rotti called it Camillus.
Oh, he's breaking the pattern.
I am just dreadfully curious. What on earth was the serial about before?
So yeah, that message plays that you're talking about.
Which, Vince, you said one of my favorite things when we were doing the live stream. He said, anyway, I'm recording something, so I gotta talk like a ghost.
It's a recording from a very long time ago, so I have to sound like a ghost.
Yeah, because I mean, when you're making a recording for the future, you got to make sure that it's perfect. You got to be like, okay, people are going to listen to this in 3,000 years at least. So obviously, I'm gonna have to talk like a ghost. That's what you do when you're sending a message to the future. You want people to think they're listening to a ghost.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on, the delivery she gives.
She's basically just like, you're resurrected now. Go make Earth yours, yo.
You're resurrected now. Go make Earth yours, yo.
That's it.
That's it. And then, this is where it happens.
Harry is sexist.
The dumbest thing Harry Sullivan says the entire episode. And he's like, how does that whole recording make you feel, Sarah Jane, as a female chauvinist? He calls Sarah Jane a female chauvinist like it's a thing.
Hang on, I'm gonna find the line and I'm gonna turn the audio on, because we need to hear this fucking line.
Well, I bet that did your female chauvinist heart a power of good.
For why?
Well, I mean, fancy a member of the fair sex being top of the totem pole.
I like that Sarah Jane's like, what are you talking about? And then when he explains, she's like, oh.
Oh, you're just an idiot.
I like that Sarah Jane also doesn't argue with it. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, I am. But yeah, because the High Minister is female. I don't know if we've said that.
I mean, it is the kind of thing where we are in the future. If someone wrote something today where they pointed it out, it is still like, we're not at the point yet where it's like, just expected.
Right.
But if you pointed it out, it would be really annoying. Like if someone had been like, huh, look at that. A woman's in charge. Everyone would be like, yeah?
So?
If you say something about it, it's weird.
How does that make you feel, you female chauvinist? God, Harry Sullivan is an imbecile. I know that's a line that comes up later because I listened to another podcast called Harry Sullivan is an Imbecile.
Is that a line from the show, or is that just an assessment?
That's something the doctor says.
Yeah, the doctor says it in the episode we haven't gotten to yet.
Is this when we get this amazing fight scene? This big sort of wrestling match between Noah and his hand?
He's kind of just like slamming it into things.
Yeah, he is having a knockdown, drag-out fight with his left hand.
And at the same time, he's trying
I wondered if he was going to get a chainsaw.
Ash it up. While he's wrestling with his hand, he's like also sort of like trying to warn everybody, like over the intercom, like get away! I'm turning into an evil bug. He's like fighting it, and then he just sort of stops and he goes, "We will absorb all humans." I actually thought that was a pretty good shift of being the like freaking out in pain, and then just stops and turns into the evil bug.
So which green absorbing Doctor Who villain is better? The bubble wrap creature or the Absorbaloff?
I mean,
no! The bubble wrap creature.
Without question.
So the doctor sort of starts talking like planned stuff to himself. And Sarah Jane says he talks to himself a lot because he's the only one who understands it. Don't worry about it. He's not talking to you. He's just talking to himself. No one knows what the fuck he's talking about. The doctor's gonna go do a thing. Mm-hmm. I don't remember exactly what. Some sort of plan. And he recruits Vira to help him. And Harry's gonna stay behind and revive people. And Sarah Jane's gonna help Harry reluctantly.
I mean, somebody's gonna have to help Harry just not push things he's not supposed to.
Someone's gonna have to babysit him to make sure he doesn't accidentally shoot himself out into space.
Oh, what does this button do? That's him sucking himself into space.
Is he reviving people yet?
Well, I think they left and then they're reviving people. So we're staying with Harry and Sarah Jane.
I like this because basically Vera is like, we have to go do this thing, and she's like, I don't want to go do this thing because I'm supposed to be reviving people, and the doctor's like, Harry Sullivan can do it, and I'm like, at no point do I feel confident in that sentence.
Oh, yeah, they go out in the corridors, and there's one of those doors that open upwards, and behind it is Two-Face.
There's a deleted scene here, too. Because, yeah, they find Noah, and he's half bubble wrap. I actually think that looks pretty good.
Yeah, that effect worked pretty well, because it's not close-up.
Yeah, and it does seem kind of terrifying, that it's just like, this is where Doctor Who has gotten into horror, I feel like. I know, like, New Who has a lot of sort of horror elements to it, and I haven't seen a whole lot of that in Classic Who.
Well, I think also the threshold for horror shifts as well, because we get used to certain things. So, I mean, people were probably pretty scared of, like, really early episodes as well. It's just that by today's standards, it's hard to see it. But this is like body horror. That's pretty primal.
It was so bad that they had to cut a scene out. That's what happened. Because, like, Noah confronts Vira and the doctor, right? And then they just sort of get away. The door closes on them and they get away.
Yeah, they get his gun, I think.
What happened in the scene is that Noah was like, please kill me. Kill me. Please kill. He was begging Vira to kill him.
That thing. That's a bit of a trope, but...
Well, probably. Was it?
Yeah, was it?
They were probably copying something at this point. What year was this? 1970... 75. Something's gotta have had the kill me moment in it. Because there are so many things that have that moment that something's gotta have had it before 75.
But they were like, that's too much for a family show. Just to have a character asking another character to please end his life.
Is this when we meet Snitch Up Guy?
But yeah, 2 more people have been revived.
It's guy in red and guy in green. Red is Snitch Up Guy, I think, and green is other guy.
Rogan. Rogin. I don't know who the other guy is.
Yeah, I don't know, but the Rogan guy, he's pretty entertaining.
It's funny.
He pops. He could have stuck around.
I liked him a lot. Yeah.
He's the guy that says when they're revived, he says that he could have been happily dead by now instead of dealing with this nonsense.
He also keeps saying snitch up.
That's true.
Like, he wakes up and immediately goes into a panic attack. And was like, I could have been dead. Like, that's his solution. Was like, I should have just died quietly years ago. And I wouldn't be in this mess right now.
And then Vira's like, we need to start reviving everyone. And the doctor's not for that plan.
No, he's for examining the bug again. Because, not enough to examine it twice. You gotta examine it a third time in case you missed anything.
He's like, we need to take care of the bugs and not worry about the body so much because it's going to take 4 days to resurrect everyone. Not sure why.
It's a lot of people. It takes time.
I guess so. But, we need to take care of the bugs because if we don't, they'll just kill the people before we have a chance to resuscitate them. He cuts a piece off of the bug.
Is that supposed to be its skull? What is that?
I think it's a brain piece or something. Because he's basically hooking it up to a TV and let's see what it saw. Let's look at its memories. Honestly, this whole thing doesn't really go much of anywhere. We don't really learn.
We do. We learn its weakness.
We sort of learn its weakness.
I mean, we do.
Yeah.
We learn its weakness.
I guess.
Through doing this.
But it takes forever, and we're not really gaining new information while it's happening. The doctor has to say it afterwards. But he hooks up the brain, or whatever it is, to a machine that plays its memories on the TV. He actually has to hook himself up to it, because it won't work just without. He has to hook himself up to it to make it extra powerful or whatever. He does do the kill me bit, actually, where he gives a gun to Vira, and he's like, hey, if this doesn't work, because there's a possibility that I guess he'll be possessed by the bug.
Yeah, that he'll be linked up with the bug too much, and that's all that's going to be left.
So he gives Vira a gun, basically kill me if this goes wrong.
Well, this is more the zombie movie thing of if I get bitten, just shoot me. That's that thing. Which is a little different than I'm already at the point where kill me right now, please.
But then we get basically an entire recap of episode 1, but from the bug's point of view.
Which is green around the edges.
Yeah, it's the bug coming to the ship, attacking Dune. It gets shot by the thing.
It gets shot by the
dentist lamp.
The dentist lamp really early on.
Chews the cables. But everything we see is stuff we've already gleaned. I mean, I guess there is a new bit, but that it got shot by, the bug got shot by the dentist lamp.
This reminds me of that thing, and I don't know where this is from. This might have also been in an episode of Doctor Who where they took an eyeball from a dead person and they shone a light through it and it projected an image of the last thing they saw. Was that in an episode of Doctor Who?
The doctor does actually say, it's people used to think that, the eye holds the last image they saw. It's like that.
Yeah, I think he's addressed that in a newer episode as well. I think, did they do that also in the movie Wild Wild West?
Yes, they did. It's also in the Crimson Horror? Yeah, Mount of Astro dismisses the validity of optography, which is what this is called.
I knew there was a Doctor Who episode that had that trope.
While he's getting these memories, Noah, who's now more bug...
He's more bug now than man.
...has shown up, and there's a shootout going on, right? And there's also bubble wrap foams trying to break through the door, so it's oh no, he's got to get the memories, but it's intense, and there's things coming at him and whatever. But the bubble foam does get through, and they start shooting at it, but it's having no effect.
It's having no effect?
No effect.
It's having no effect.
But then they shoot it and the doctor walks up to it and they're like, "Doctor, stop. What are you doing?" And he's like, "Aim lower." And then they aim lower and it works for some reason. I don't think that's ever really explained. I guess it's because he's been inside the mind of the bugs and he's like, I know
has some
how it
sort
works.
of like psychic connection info going on.
And then the doctor says there will be 100 of them. They've laid more eggs. And the only thing that can kill them is the electricity, is what killed the bug. It took a while to die and then put itself in a cupboard for some reason. It got shot and then laid its eggs and then went and died in a cupboard. Why did it die in a cupboard? Why would you just not?
Probably hid so that there's less of a suspicion that something went wrong.
I have a note that says, "Shoot the big thing."
That's the bug, yeah. It's basically bubble wrap on top and pink weird teats underneath. I don't know. It's like these weird little stubby leg things. So they're like, we need to shoot them up with electricity. They want to go back to where the dentist lamp is, I think. So they're like, the transmat thing can be reversed. So Rogan and Harry go through. Rogan goes through first and he's very annoyed about it. He's like, well, might as well be the guinea pig. Ugh. But then the power drains and they can't transmat anybody else. And also the oxygen has stopped because the bugs are controlling shit.
Is it Vira who says suffocation is not the most unpleasant death?
Yeah,
Yes.
she's like, oh well, there are worse ways to die.
Suffocation is not the most unpleasant death, provided you finish at just the right moment. Is that it?
I feel like suffocating to death would be horrible.
The only context in which I've heard people talk about suffocating and death and pleasure is, there's some masturbatory element to it, and it's an accident.
Okay, I guess suffocation isn't the worst way to go.
I don't think that's what she's saying.
Pretty sure it is. Pretty sure she's planning something. She's like, okay, well, if I'm gonna suffocate to death, here we go.
I'll be in my pod.
Oh, no.
So, the doctor leaves to figure out how to get the power back on, I guess. And does he come across a bunch of cocoons?
Yeah, because basically he's like, they're going to pupate, and they're going to be dormant when they do that. So, that's when we're going to zap them.
And he goes and he finds them, but then he's confronted by Noah, who's his entire body's covered except for one eye.
Noah, aka Zap Zap.
He turns full bug. There's a transparent overlay and then it fills in.
Yeah, it's not the greatest fade. It basically just fades from his, it's first we're seeing the superimposed images. Well, it's not superimposed. I guess it's half transparent. Yeah, it's like a double exposure footage, but the camera is moving. So it's it's not quite lined up right because it's the bug and it's the bubble wrap face. And then it fades away the bubble wrap face and then it's just the bug. But it's if they had morph, that would have helped. Or if they had locked down the fucking camera and locked down the actor and locked down the bug so that they don't move, it would have maybe worked a little better. But instead they're moving, but they're out of phase with each other. So it's oh, this is just superimposed footage.
It looks a little gross though. I think it looks okay. It's not a perfect effect, but it gets across what it needs to get across. That's the end of episode 3. We are now into episode 4, which Toni calls
Episode 4.
and I call Arc Resolution.
And I call anyone for a jelly baby?
And John the Karate called it Golf Ball.
What the fuck?
And it's not golf space ball. It's all one word. Golf ball.
I mean, I would want to see Golf Space Ball because that's clearly a serial about space golf.
I want to know what the original story was. Golf ball.
Buttercup, Golf Ball. Golf Ball's not even a really intriguing title. It's just an object.
I don't know. That's intriguing to me. What? Golf ball?
It seems almost like he was just sort of looking around the room and okay, golf ball, buttercup. What was the other thing?
There's camellias and puffball. It's a plant. It's Camellias. It's a plant. I think maybe they're all plants?
Is golf ball a plant?
Well, no, there it is. Golf ball. Golf ball is a vigorous grower.
Not a shower.
It's basically like a bush. It's a shrub. Well, there you go. We learned something.
Neat.
Noah's turned into a bug. Vira shoots the bug, and then helps the doctor get away. But then the bug starts talking, is like, here is our backstory.
Talking bug with Chris Hardwick.
He basically just says, we don't like humans because they killed us first. Is that what he's...
Yeah, the Earth fucked up our planet, so we're just gonna, breed here.
And we're gonna...
Well, they live in space, but they breed on...
cattle, right?
Yeah.
But they fucked up Earth, and now they don't have cattle, I guess.
I don't think it was Earth. It was a colony, and the humans went there to make it habitable and made it less habitable
to them. So they're like, fuck all humans, but we want to destroy all humans and absorb their knowledge and power, and we'll be super smart and super cool, and everyone will fear.
Because the doctor's
us.
like, why don't you guys just fuck off back to space?
Right.
And they're like, nah, we got a grudge.
This universe is huge.
There's lots of planets. Just go find another one. And they're like, no, we're gonna take back Earth.
Or the Noah bug is like, so you guys either need to leave here or die. Leave or die. Those are the only two options.
You can either survive
or die. So they all return to the pod area, and Harry says the most logical thing I've thought of. She's like, hey, why don't we all just leave in the TARDIS? Which is a question I have a lot while watching these serials.
Addressing why not go TARDIS is my note. Because I noticed how, a lot of the time people don't mention the obvious. And I'm sort of glad that somebody went, hey, there is a thing that people are thinking, so here's the elephant in the room. Why don't we go leave? And then somebody was like, no, I need to be a hero.
Well, Vira's like, well, there's too many people on the ship.
I don't think there's any way to, revive the people. Or, it's easier to revive them there than to try to, get a bunch of bodies onto the TARDIS.
So she was like, I'm not leaving, I gotta do some stuff. And then the doctor is like, well, there you have it, then I'm not leaving either. Because there's stuff. There's heroics happening, and I gotta be there.
So he's like, what we need to do is figure out a way to electrocute the shit out of all of these bugs.
Do you know what line he has that's my favorite? Where he's talking about humans. He has a couple really good monologues about, humanity. He's talking about, wanting to save humanity, and he's like, I know it might be irrational, but you guys are kind of my favorite species.
This is something that it is a big thing in New Who, where the doctor he's a human nerd. He's like a human fanboy. And is this the first time that's come up?
If it has come up before, it's probably not been as...
It's not really been addressed like that.
It's been pretty casual, I think, where the doctor is like, yeah, I like humans. I like hanging out with humans. Humans are cool. But now it's like, oh, humans are a speech of speech. And I don't think we've seen that before, but we've seen it since.
We've seen the more negative attitude before, too.
Yeah, we've definitely seen, humans.
Humans are dumb, and they, they fight, and they're about war, and, come on, get it together, humans.
But this is the first time where he's been just straight up like, oh, they're so cute.
Where he's just geeking out over humans. And the new doctors have done that a lot. Especially 11. And maybe 10.
10 does both, too.
Yeah, 10 had a bit of both. 10 had some moments of oh, come on, humans. And some moments of, yeah, humans.
That's pretty much how I feel about them.
There's so many of them. They can do it. There's the multitudes of man.
You're either like, oh man, humanity, look at you go. Or you're like, humanity, please.
Stop.
For the love of God, please stop.
You can do better than this. You have it in you. It's like he's rooting for his favorite team and they keep fucking up. That's the only sports reference that you'll get from me in this episode.
The doctor loves humanity because he's their favorite shitty underdog sports team.
That's great. That's perfect. So he's like, we need to electrocute the bugs, but the problem with that is we don't have power because the bugs are controlling our power.
Because the bugs know that.
Sarah Jane's like, well, what about the transport ship? It probably has separate power source, right? And they're like, yeah, that's perfect. Like, how do we get a cable from the transport ship to the pods?
Because they'll just cut it if they see it.
Yeah, and then well, there's a basically like a ventilation shaft, but it's very small. And then Sarah Jane's like, I can do it. She basically does the thing that, was it Zoe? No, it was Vicky. Vicky, who did the it's this big. And then she walks into the arms and goes, I'm that big. But yeah, they get to the transport ship. Sarah Jane takes the cable and starts crawling through the ventilation shaft. Harry and Sarah Jane are just like sniping at each other the entire time. He's like, are you doing okay in there? She's like, I'm doing fine. Leave me alone.
He calls her old girl again, which I thought was very brave and or stupid of him.
Stupid. Definitely stupid. Meanwhile, the doctor's still back in the pods because he's waiting for the cable to come through.
Yeah.
But a bug comes in. And he, like, hides in one of the pods?
The doctor does, not the bug. Because the way you said that sentence, it sounded like the bug was hiding in one of the pods, and that would have been hard.
And not what makes sense.
Because the bug is actually pretty big for a bug.
Yeah, it's probably, 7, 8 feet?
Yeah, 7.
Big. But yeah, Sarah Jane crawls through.
The triangular shaft.
I hated watching that.
And then she gets Winnie the Pooh. She gets stuck. And close to where the doctor is.
The doctor means her out of it. The doctor motivates her by being a dick.
Works. Because he's like, you just laying there not doing shit. I knew this would happen and blah, blah. And she's like, fuck you. And then she's like, I'm going to come beat your ass.
I'm getting out of here so I can fight you.
And then he's like, hey, look, it worked.
I'm glad it worked, because otherwise I'd just be being a dick for no reason.
And then she died in the ventilation shaft. He's like, oh, well, that was some really poor last words I gave her.
Somehow there's a way that 4 gets away with things that 3 never would.
Like I said, he was using it as a tactic. Whereas 3 just straight up says that shit sometimes. And also, 4 is just way funnier.
I think he also has, like, the grace to, like, look kind of, like, apologetic or look teasing.
Right.
Whereas 3 sometimes forgets to do that part. You forget to, like, give that, like, smile that says, I'm only joking.
Well, and the 4th Doctor is such an optimist. Like, when he goes, hey, I was just saying that to motivate you.
You're like, yeah, of course you were.
Yeah, I mean, that makes more sense than you saying it for any other reason. Because you're the 4th Doctor. So far, you seem to be pretty, positive.
He's a lot more laid back, too.
I find it delightful.
But then they plug in the thing, and they shock the bug that's in the other room. Sarah Jane stands next to a vent, which is a bad move, and gets it grabbed by another bug, which the doctor then shocks with, like, the cable. But they basically set up a perimeter around the pod, right? Like, around that area, so that if any bugs come in, they'll get zappy-zapped.
The door. But yeah.
Yeah, it's just the door. But then the bugs turn their power back on, and they're like, well, that's suspicious.
The line resistance is useless gets spoken, and that's always nice.
That happens.
It's always nice when resistance is useless and they have the grace to announce it. Like, resistance is useless. Oh, thank you. I didn't know that. If you hadn't told me that, I would have, resisted and it would have been useless and I would have been like, what's happening? I can't understand what's going on right now. I'm resisting, but it's something's not. I can't conceptualize why this resisting isn't. I'm resisting, but I have no frame of reference for why this resisting isn't having the result that is desired.
Why isn't this resistance useful?
But then they're like, resistance is useless. And you're like, oh, it's useless. Now I get it. Thank you. Thank you for informing me of that.
I believe that's said by the Noah bug, because he calls in and tries to negotiate and says he's going to take away their oxygen.
And bugs can live for a long time without oxygen, apparently.
And he's like, if you surrender, we will let all of the people that are currently revived go. But you'll have to leave me the ones in the pods. And the doctor is like, I'm not for that, and tries to, like, talk to the human part of Noah. It's like, I'm sure you're still in there. Don't do this shit. Don't do a bad, do a good.
Earth stuff. You remember Earth? You know the Earth? It's a planet. Earth. Remember that?
Trees and stuff and like flowers. There was puffballs, golf balls, buttercups, camellias. You remember all those? And he's like, nah, peace out. And like, sends the bugs, because there's more bugs now, to the transport ship. They're like spacewalking across the thing to get to the transport ship.
Is this when they grill it with the jet?
Yeah, the rocket engine blast. Yeah. Like, there's a couple that come into the transport ship inside the ship. And then they press a button and it shoots off some rocket ship exhaust. or whatever, burns them alive. And then they kill the bugs, and Vira has a moment where she's like, I hope one of those wasn't Noah. Yeah, then the bugs are coming, or spacewalking to the cargo hold. The doctors, like, come by. He's like, turn off the power and get out of there.
Yeah, evacuate the rocket.
Set it to manually take off. So all the bugs will be on the transport ship, and then it'll take off, and they'll be flying through space, basically. The doctor's like, I gotta do this specific technical thing so the ship can take off. You guys get out of here. And Rogan's like, I know what you're doing. If you do that, you'll immediately die. So he punches him, knocks him out, and then, like, I don't know, he puts him in a pod, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he basically punches the doctor, puts him in safety, and then he does the last thing, and then the ship takes off and it kills Rogan. And then the doctor walks back into the main control room and is like, Rogan sacrificed himself and saved me. And they're like, oh, cool, you're saved. And like, no one seems that upset that Rogan's died, except for the doctor for like 2 seconds. But then they're like, maybe Noah led them all there on purpose. Maybe that was like, he knew what was going to happen, and he knew that we were going to shoot off this rocket in space and put them all there so that to help us out. And then Noah calls in and confirms it on this thing. He's like, goodbye, Vira. And then the transport ship explodes, killing all the bugs. But then they're like, well, we need to start transporting the people back to the planet, but like the transmat system is a little borked, and they need to fix it from the Earth side. So the doctor's like, I'll go to Earth and I'll take care of it. Just beam me down. And then like Sarah Jane, like he's putting on like a suit to go do it, and Sarah Jane and Harry are also doing it. And then the doctor's like, I didn't say that you guys could come. And I'm like, tough.
And yet here we are.
Yeah. Beam us down, Scotty.
Which, by the way, this transmat...
It's very Star Trek.
Very Star Trek. Very Star Trek. It looks almost exactly like the set from Star Trek.
And we've never seen it before in the serial.
No, we've seen the other the bed one. Which, isn't this in the same room?
I think so. It's like they panned to a wall we never saw.
Yeah, and over there they got the set from Star Trek.
And the doctor throws Vira a little bag of jelly babies and giggles. And then seems slightly shocked that they disappear, even though it's like she does the reaction to the TARDIS disappearing, but the TARDIS didn't disappear. She transmatted them down to Earth, but she gives the same look as if they had...
Well, I think the look was to say, jelly babies? What are you talking about?
She eats them, though. She smiles, and that's the end of the serial.
So, the next serial is going to be about this?
I think so.
The next serial is going to be about jelly babies. There's going to be a bunch of jealous babies.
I've heard this whole season is basically one long day.
Wait, really?
The doctor. Yeah, every episode continues.
So it's 24?
Yeah.
When do they sleep?
They don't. I mean, it's not, I don't know if it's 24 because it's not, A, it's not in real time, and B, who can tell, like, what time happens because there's time travel involved? So it could be more than 24. But every episode basically continues immediately from the previous one. But that's the end of the arc in space. We will take a quick break, and then we'll be back for our final thoughts.
Do you wake up in the middle of the night with cold sweats thinking about professional wrestling?
Have you ever done the Ric Flair strut thinking no one was watching, but they were? Woo!
Have you ever binge-watched 18 hours of The Ultimate Warrior only to want more?
If the answer is yes, then do we have the cure for you?
The
Pro Wrestling Roundtable.
We talk about the past, present, and future of professional wrestling, brother.
We review wrestling movies and even jump in a time machine to review past wrestling events.
You can find us on iTunes and www.theprowrestlingroundtable.com.
Also on Twitter at podcast PWR.
Also join our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/ESOPro.
We bring the squared circle to the round table.
That was a great ad.
Wasn't it? I really liked whatever it was promoting.
Probably. I didn't hear it. I will hear it because I listen to the podcast. Even the ones I'm on, because I never miss an episode.
Aw, very nice.
I've never listened to a single episode of this podcast.
Final thoughts. Oh, this is so hard because it's so final, you know? I'm supposed to have final thoughts? Because it's like, after that, I can't have any more thoughts, you know? I have to stop thinking after that, and that's such a hard thing, because it's like, you gotta make it count, you know? You gotta make your final count, your final thoughts count, and it's so nerve-wracking. Well, I like this serial, but I don't know why. I mean, it's 4 episodes, so it's no biggie. It's not like it's one of those where it's like it's full of way too many episodes. I don't think I noticed any particular. I mean, there were some moments where it's like where the plot kind of slows down and there's just a bunch of business, but there's not specific things where I'd be like, oh, this needs to go. It's all pretty much just stuff. It's your basic monsters on a spaceship story. It's your basic body horror, people getting turned into monsters story. It's kind of a vampire thing a little bit. It's a little bit of a zombie thing. It's a little bit of Alien. It's a little bit of The Thing.
It's a little bit country. It's a little bit rock and roll.
No, it's not those things. And it's in space, which, you know, automatically for me, if it's a thing in space, then, you know, it gets bonus points automatically. I'm like, it's in space. I'm in. And if it's got, like, in space in the title, then I'm like, I'm on board for that. Especially if it's 4 episodes, as opposed to, like, 12 episodes with just a bunch of people getting locked in rooms. Although, we have seen a serial where people got locked in rooms and it worked, because they did bits.
And it was in space.
Frontier in space, right. I'm big into episodes with in space. That's my jam. Space is my jam. They should make a movie about that. And call it, like, Space Jam?
I think they should call it Back in Action.
Why would they call it that if it's in space?
It's to throw you off.
But will there be Daleks in it?
There'll be Daleks and Joan Cusack.
But will they have the rights to use the Daleks?
No, they will not.
Will there be a legal problem because of that?
Possibly, yes.
Okay, I'm on board for that. It's probably better than Space Jam anyway.
I think so.
I feel like this feels kind of like, you know, it's a pretty standard episode. It doesn't really, I mean, there are some things that I think stand out about it. Specifically, the Doctor's kind of attitude toward humans being like a super fan. I feel like that kind of started here, where he's just on board. It's like, that's my team from there. Other than that, I don't know if I have any final thoughts. My thoughts are not final. I'm just going to ramble forever, and it's never going to end, because there are no final thoughts. My thoughts on this episode, or this serial, not final. There are non-final thoughts. Those are my final thoughts.
Yeah, I kind of see what Vince is saying, in that it's a pretty solid serial, not like an exceptional one.
It's a fan favorite.
Like, and there's definitely, like, when I was watching it, I was like, this is great. It carries you through, really. And also, I think part of what makes it so great is that we're exploring the 4th Doctor and who he is as a Doctor. Because, like, all of my favorite parts about this episode are more about, like, that than necessarily things happening in the plot. Which isn't bad, it's just sort of standard.
Except for the bubble wrap, which was exceptional. Very good bubble wrap work. This episode was handled with care.
Like, the monster wasn't, like, particularly interesting. But, like, I really did like the secondary characters. Like, sometimes you get secondary characters and you're like, I don't remember, like, distinctively who each of them are. I know what each of their, like, trope is, or I know what they did, or there were, like, 4 characters when there needed to be 2, and I remember 2 of them, but not the other 2. Whereas I genuinely like and care about all of the people that we meet on the space station. Yeah, for me, all the really good, interesting things about this serial come from fun character stuff. More so than, you know, there's like a really intriguing monster or a plot or an idea that makes you kind of like, oh my god, they did that.
I guess the problem with a spaceship full of human storage is that you have too many characters, like, right off the bat.
That is true. But I like them all. There has occasionally been times where it's like, these characters don't really feel distinct enough, and it's partially because, like, the writer's like, they're not super important. They're just here to set up a thing. It varies from serial to serial, episode to episode.
Rogan was pretty distinct.
Yeah, Rogan was great. I loved him. Yeah, that's not a problem that I think this serial had at all. I think the serial strengths were in characters, and that's, you know, the monologue Doctor has about humans, and that is great. Those are its strengths. Those are the things that, like, make it a really good serial, as opposed to just being, like, kind of okay. And those are my final thoughts.
Before I get into my final thoughts...
No. What do you mean before you get into your final thoughts?
I want to tell you other people's final thoughts. Russell T. Davies called this his favorite storyline of classic Who, I guess?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Stephen Moffat considered it the best Fourth Doctor story. I don't know who Barnaby Edwards is, but said that he was petrified of the Wern as a child. And Tom Baker himself has stated that of all the stories he's filmed, the Ark in Space was his favorite.
Really?
Yeah. And also, a lot of people... It was a particularly popular serial with contemporary audiences as well, when they re-aired it. 5th most watched program of its week. And also, it's the beginning of what a lot of people call the gothic horror era of Doctor Who.
That totally makes sense to me.
I don't think it's that good, but...
I am surprised. Because I wouldn't have said it was bad, but I wouldn't have put it in, like, the tops of things like we've seen so far. Like, this is a very early in 4's run to have hit the best episode.
Right. I do like the tone of it. It's...
Absolutely.
It's different, and it's more, like, character-based, because it's very tight and intimate and, like, claustrophobic almost, because there's not a lot of sets. And yeah, there is that sort of, like, alien vibe of we're hiding from monsters that are on the ship with us. They can kill us and turn us into them. There is the whole body horror thing. Yeah, I've been waiting for, like, more horror to come into the show, and I feel like this is the one that's done it. This is the first episode, I feel like, where the horror encompasses the entire plot. It's not just relegated to certain segments. It's like, that's the main thing. This is basically, it's basically a horror story of just being trapped on a thing with these evil bugs. So I like that aspect of it. The body horror and all that stuff. And also, the previous serial introduced the Fourth Doctor, but this is a good serial of, like, the Doctors settling in.
Yeah, it's establishing his personality a lot more.
Well, especially, like, the first one is always, like, there's a little bit of regeneration sickness. So you have, like, sort of this...
the wacky stuff going on of, hey, there's a new guy, what's going on? And this is the first serial that's just, this is the Doctor. It's not introducing him, this is what a standard episode would feel like. I feel like the strength of this serial is that it sets the tone for who the Doctor is, and part of it is, like, the different things that it does. It's doing new stuff with the Doctor that is so, like, today so central to, like, who he is.
I would say they've remade this serial a lot. A lot of the stuff that comes up in the serial comes up again, especially in New Who. I'm sure in Old Who too, but, like, I think this was a very influential serial. Because, like, now it feels like a standard episode, but really, if you think about it, if you look back, it's like, yeah, it does a lot of things that have been done before, but mostly it's doing stuff that's been done since.
Yeah, I'm for it. I feel like Sarah Jane could probably had a little bit more to do, but she was fun in it. Harry Sullivan was more fun and more annoying at the same time.
Both those things.
It's weird, but yeah, I don't know. It was fun. It's watchable. It's very watchable. I think it all comes together really well. Just the mood of it, the tone of it, I like a lot. I'm a fan of it. I liked it. That's my final thoughts. So, Vince, do you have any plugs?
Well, I guess we should first talk about what's already out, which is, it's been talked about before, but again, our book, The Princess and the Pterodactyls, which you, me, and Ray wrote.
Previous guest, Ray Friesen.
We wrote it under the pseudonym J. Bartholomew Hivemind. It's an adventure, comedy, fantasy thing with wizards and accidental time travel and all sorts of crazy stuff. So read that, 'cause it's fun. But what also might become available is A Thing in Space, which is a comic that we're writing. I kind of created it, and we kind of developed it, and Chris Cherry is also part of the writing process sometimes. It's primarily being drawn by your dad, Brad Heath. It's a space adventure.
It has in space in the title, so
it's kind of an anthology and kind of not, because there are some, like, major characters who are going to be playing big parts in most stories, but we're probably going to have some, like, offshoot stories and expand the universe as much as possible eventually. But generally, it's just a platform for telling and exploring stories, and it's very meta. It's a lot of, like, leaning on the fourth wall and occasionally breaking the fourth wall and looking at the fourth wall from all sorts of angles and the other walls as well. But there are no walls because it's in space.
There are no walls in space.
That should maybe be a tagline we should consider using.
In space, no one can see your walls.
So yeah, A Thing in Space. The first issue of A Thing in Space is about a character whose name is not mentioned in the whole episode because this character does not know their name, does not have a name at this point, and does not know where they're from, does not know really anything except having read a book. That's where it starts. It starts with a character who has read a book.
The character is trying to figure out who they are, where they're, like, what's going on.
What their place is in the universe, and whether the universe is even real. athinginspace.com, I own that URL, so when it's a thing, something's going to be there. Right now, there's just an image from what used to be the issue 1 cover, but now that's going to be the issue 3 cover with some alterations probably. But that's what's on there right now. We've finished issue 1. We're not putting it out yet. We're going to get a little ahead of ourselves so that we have a bit of a catalog that we can keep up. But yeah, it's a comic. I have music on Bandcamp and SoundCloud. My name on both of those places is Vincent E.L. I also have a band page, I guess, on Facebook called Vincent E.L, the Earwig Linguist.
Go like that.
Yeah, go like it, because nobody does. Nobody likes my music.
I like your music. You do our theme song.
Is our theme song available to download?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's actually available on Bandcamp. It's part of a sort of album. Not quite an album, but it's an album. It's called Songs for Other People and Also Things. Just a collection of songs and pieces of loose music that I've made for various reasons, whether it's for your stuff or for other people's stuff or for stuff I planned to make and never made. It's stuff like that.
So if you like our theme song, go download it, and then download a bunch of other Vince's stuff, because it's all good.
It's not all good. I've made some really, really bad songs, but recently I've made VCVC BCC and Fuck the Fire Department, both of which I think are good songs.
I like them too. Keep an eye out for us at Wholanta. I'm pretty sure we're going to be at Wholanta doing a podcast. It's not 100% official yet, but I think we're going to be doing a live podcast at Wholanta.
Either way, we will be at Wholanta, so come see us.
And that's in Atlanta, if you couldn't tell by the name. And that's, I believe, the beginning of May, sometime in May. So check that out. Rachel Talele will be there, and
Joe's going to try to bother her
about Tank Girl. So if you like this episode, you can check out more on Watch-A-Rassilon.com. And be sure to rate and comment on our iTunes.
It helps us be seen. It helps other people find the podcast.
It does secret magic iTunes things, and it helps us out. If you'd like to help us out even more, go to WatchARassilon.com/support, and there you will find a link to our Patreon page, which you can get to just by going to Patreon.com/Watch-A-Thon. There you can donate a monthly amount to get all kinds of rewards, like day early episodes.
Day early episodes?
Yeah, day early episodes. Uncut video of the podcast records where you can see all of us. Vince is here too. Wave, Vince.
Uncut episodes of the podcast records where you can see all of us? Vince is here too. Wave, Vince?
Yes.
Where you can hear Joe sneezing 500 times in a row.
5 billion times.
I was there for it. Well, I was here for it. Luckily, I did not get sneezed on because of countries being separated by water.
And we also do live streams now. And Vince is a part of that too, sometimes. He was a part of the last one.
Yeah, I almost fell asleep.
Thrill at us watching Doctor Who and Vince falling asleep. Also on our support page is a link to our Amazon wishlist where you can sponsor an episode of the podcast by purchasing the corresponding serial on DVD for us. We'll mention you in the podcast and put your name on our Friends of Rassilon page. Speaking of, special thanks again to Matt Golden for sponsoring this episode.
Hey, thanks, Matt.
That's mgoldentumbles.tumblr.com. Tumbles without an E and Tumblr without an E because it's Tumbles Tumblr.
And tune in next time when we talk about the Sontaran experiment, which is a 2-parter.
What? They had those back then? Holy smokes.
I don't think we've had a 2-parter since what? Edge of Destruction, maybe? But we'll see you then. Keep calm and Rassilon.
Goodbye, friends. I love you.
Have a tuna that is tasteful.
Call me old girl again, and I'll spit in your eye.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping through Amazon.com or the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.